So we are going to be looking at a language dive today for the focus statement that came from the model essay. We're just looking at the focus statement. Comparing the two texts shows how Park used historical events in the novel. What does this sentence mean to you? How does this sentence add to your understanding of the guiding question? So if you think back to the essay prompt that we're being asked to answer is, how does Linda Sue Park use or alter history in A Long Walk to Water? So what this sentence does is it answers the question asked by the essay prompt. Let's now start breaking this sentence down into its parts. So let's look at the first part of the sentence, the subject of the sentence. What does comparing mean? Comparing means when you're looking at similar subjects, similar objects. For example, in the model essay, you're looking at two texts that are about the same time in history. Those two texts are A Long Walk to Water and One Day I Had to Run. So what does this chunk tell us? It tells us what the structure of the essay is. We know it's going to be comparing. And it also tells us the topic of the essay, which is two texts. So this is the subject or the topic of the essay. So now we're looking at this sentence. Comparing blank and blank shows how they both have happy endings. So what we put into these blanks need to be topics that are somehow related to each other. We couldn't put two totally random things into this spot. I couldn't put comparing baseballs and bananas because that doesn't make any sense. They don't have anything in common. So on your Canvas quiz, look at your answer choices and think about which two topics or subjects could you put in these blanks to compare. Now let's look at the middle of the sentence. Shows how. What does this chunk tell us? Well, that word shows, when you're showing something to someone, you're demonstrating it or you're explaining it. Let me show you how to throw a ball. Let me show you an example of this. So you're demonstrating it or explaining it. So in the essay, he's going to compare those two texts to demonstrate or explain something to the reader. Let's look at the end of the focus statement. Comparing the two texts shows how Park used historical events. Well, first of all, who is Park? It's not a fun place that you go to slide down the slides. Linda Sue Park is the author of A Long Walk to Water. So this chunk tells us that Park based the novel on actual events that happened in history. It is a historical fiction text. We know from our reading that the historical events that she's talking about are the lost boys and girls of Sudan and their journey to the refugee camps and their journey to America. So let's look at it again as a whole. Comparing the two texts shows how Park used historical events in the novel. This is a focus statement. It answers the question asked in the essay prompt, and it tells me what the essay's focus is going to be. The rest of the essay explains the similarities and differences between A Long Walk to Water and One Day I Had to Run. So the focus statement previews what the rest of the essay will be about. And that brings us to our last slide, just a little bit of practice. And on your Canvas quiz, you'll see this question as well. Comparing Salva and Naya's story shows how. So we're comparing Salva and Naya. What does that demonstrate or explain to the readers? So if I compared these two characters' stories, what would that demonstrate or explain to the reader? Submit your quiz, see which ones you got right. If you missed any questions on the quiz, look and see why you missed those questions.